If neurodivergent.
I've just got to record this for YouTube later.
Sure, yeah.
Cool. We are about to go live.
No worries.
You won't hear the jingles. Apologies. Here is one of them.
As long as you just give me a heads up, Django, and just say we're live.
And now you're live.
And good morning, listeners, to Kindasound Radio on the Reality Bite Show with me, your host, Wendy Smith. And I have a gorgeous, gorgeous guest this morning, Sue Cook from Buzzz with 3 Zs.
3 Zs.
Thank you for joining me on a Sunday morning, Sue.
That's my pleasure.
Lovely.
How are you doing?
I'm really good actually this morning. Yeah, woke up, had a bit of a fun, not going to go into health things, but felt yesterday like hay fever kicked in, had a weird old headache, nearly a migraine, went out for dinner, woke up this morning, not too bad.
Good, well that's an improvement.
So how are you anyway? You're looking
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, I had a bit of hay fever too yesterday. I was out in the garden. We've got chickens and we just I've just been weeding all the things that they can have and just putting in stacks of weeds, and they're like, oh, this is fun. So they're standing on this huge pile that they then kick around like chickens do, and they're happy. So yeah.
Oh, I love chickens. Are your chickens the type of chickens you can pick up and cuddle?
Oh yeah, I don't particularly pick them up and cuddle them, but my partner does. He's their chicken daddy. And we had tiny Pekin bantams. We've only got one left now, Lily Allen. They were named after rock stars, but we lost 3 last year, and including Jessica, who had her own secret career. Did I tell you about this?
No.
Oh God! Well, I was typing up her notes one day because chickens can't type and their spelling's awful. I was typing up her notes, and I said to my partner, I think something funny is going along here. I think she might be involved with the police. And it turns out that she was a private head investigator for the Met, and she had her own business card, Burton Coggles, private head investigator, and she was used to get, because nobody notices a small black chicken. See what I mean? So she was always being sent out on the missions because, you know, there could be a small black chicken in here now and we just wouldn't notice. So that was Burton Coggles. And anyway, she died last year. So the police have, you know, that's why they're in such a terrible state now, maybe if they are. But yeah, and we also lost Yolandi. We've got a painting there of Yolandi. She was a model. That's her in one of her crinolines.
All right.
Yeah, it's all chickens around here. This is the big purple cock, mustn't say that. And then another chicken in the corner. So
actually the picture of the cock reminds me of we have to be careful where we go this morning. Reminds me of I had a cockerel called Leggett, and he was a golden Brahma.
Oh yeah, nice.
He actually looked like that. Beautiful, big feathers, long feathered legs. He was absolutely gorgeous. My sister rescued him from a cattle auctions where they used to sell all livestock. And she brought him home, and he didn't really have any feathers on him. And she went, "Here you go. This is a present for you."
Oh,
so, lovely. So I sort of nurtured him and that, and he grew into a beautiful golden Brahma.
Oh, they are just divine. Because we were down to 2 hens last year. We bought 6 more. They're Arabella bantams, and they're Brahmas. And Brahmas are massive, and these and they're still massive. And my partner thought, well, Lily Allen's this big, the size of a tiny thing, if we just get some more bantams, but they're not. She's like down there and they're giant. And one of them decided to show her where they were in the pecking order, and she just reared up and said, no, I'm actually the top of the pecking order. So she's the diddiest, but she's the boss.
Yeah, I love her. Bantams are feisty little things.
Oh, aren't they just? Yeah, Lily Allen. Yolandi up there in the dress, she was bottom of the pecking order. She was a lavender mottle. She was the sweetest little hen, but yeah, she was at the bottom of the pecking order, so she used to get it in the neck from Lily Allen and Jessica and Daphne. So
yeah, so the listeners have to excuse us this morning. We're just talking chickens for a minute before we get into stuff, because we used to have my sister used to have a little bantam called George, and she it was a she, but she had a bit of a personality conflict, so she thought she was a cockerel. That she used to basically live in the house and used to dust bath on the carpet, sit on the sofa and watch TV.
Yeah, like you do.
Like just what you do. We've had some mad animals. We're mad animal people in the Smith family. We really are.
We're just mainly chickens these days.
It's all good though. It is. Yeah. So I'm going to introduce you a little bit too, Sue. So I'm only going to give a brief intro because we're going to go sort of through Sue's life and how I know Sue and different bits and pieces. But so I know Sue as, I'm going to say, a neuro trainer is what I'm going to call you. So she works with helping people, I want to say, just with many different things actually, Sue, realigning the body, you know, everything from sort of emotional stuff can be realigned as far as I'm concerned through what Sue does, but also physical things as well. So that's how I know Sue, through her company Brain Buzzz. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey knowing Sue. Sue is, I'd say, you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're mad as a box of frogs in the best way. I love you to bits because you just don't really care. You're quite flamboyant. You've got a beautiful personality. Everybody I know who knows you loves you as well. So it just shows that you spread love and light everywhere you go, Sue. That's why I wanted you on this morning.
Thank you. I didn't realise that. That's such a lovely edification. Thank you. And that's really moved me, because that is definitely where I come from, is a place of, you know, let's just make everyone happy. You know, if you're not happy, I'm not happy. Let's just bring everyone up to a place. And that's how I kind of got into doing health stuff. Because I nearly died when I was 19. Glandular fever nearly took me out, and I was like shocked. How can they abandon a 19-year-old, just leave you to die on the sofa? I should have been in hospital, you know, and having really good medical care, but I literally didn't, because, you know, oh, it's only a virus. But, you know, I mean, my period stopped for 8 years, and that set me off on a journey of, you know, I'm not going to stand for that. You know, we've got to have answers. And so I got into herbs. This is way back in the early 80s, way before the internet. And so I started researching herbs and learning all about health. And you know, I'm obsessed with comfrey, symphytum, and I make potions from it. Here's one, the cream I make. But I grow it and I carry my symphytum with me everywhere. It's just magic, and all the herbs I grow. But then when I was in my mid-20s, I got IBS. And they said, there's no cure, you have to learn to live with it. And I thought, well, crikey, no, I'm not living like this. So I went to visit a homeopath and a reflexologist, and they got me better. And that was it. IBS done. And I thought, well, we can't keep upper limiting people with there's no cure, there's no. I thought, I'm not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
Then scroll forward. So I did my health science degree, specializing in homeopathy. Fast forward a few years till my older son was born, and he was just, I was an experienced auntie when he was born. I'd got 10 nieces and nephews, and here was my little baby Toby, and I thought, there's something different here. He's not behaving like other children. He had a full bore altimeter. If you lowered him down to put him to sleep, he would just kick off. Had to always be attached to me, which was fine because I loved it, you know, but he was hard work. He wasn't a baby that you put down and went to sleep and things like that. And it turned out he'd got quite extreme learning issues, like off the scale dyslexia. And I think the pediatrician also said he'd got social communication disorder at the time. And then my dad, who was a dyslexia teacher, said, oh, dyslexia, there's no cure, you just have to learn to live with it. And I thought, I've heard that too many times. There is an answer, we just got to find it. So I just started investigating, researching, looking up stuff, and then discovered my teacher, who turned out to be an 82-year-old German Jew living in Oregon, who'd escaped Hitler when she was 14. And she taught me neurodevelopment, as it turned out, for 5 years, which totally changed my world. And that was 16 years ago. So, and the reason why I ended up doing it for all that time is because the change in my son was so dramatic that everybody came wanting what I'd learned, and I had to just keep learning more to help all these different issues that were coming up. So yeah.
Backtracking from that then, because I always like to know like people's background prior to when they get into doing what they're doing. Yeah. So what was found? How did you sort of, as in like family life, school life, how did you grow up? What was your sort of type of family environment, and what was your experience of the schooling system? Did you know what you were going to do? Did you find you were outside the box, inside the box?
Well, my mum and dad met in Nigeria in the 60s. My mum was visiting her parents. Her dad was teaching English. My dad was an engineer. He grew up in Chelmsford, was born in Chelmsford, well, Great Baddow, did an apprenticeship. Then he started working for Marconi's. So he was installing diesel engines, like everybody did, installing diesel engines. And so the expat community, my dad met my mum. They knew each other for a very short time, got married, had my sister. So my sister was born in Nigeria. And then we went to Venezuela, where I came along, and Dad's contract had just finished. So he was working all the way down the Andes, all the way down to Punta Arenas in the bottom of Chile. So he was working all of that. We were living in Venezuela. The contract was coming to an end. We were about to move to Canada. And then there was the most off the scale earthquake, which my dad's actually written a really good story about, which I can let you have if you want. It's called Less Important Than a Pot or something like that. I've got it on YouTube. I've done a talk on it. And so we all went through this earthquake where we all nearly got crushed in different places because mum and dad were out and me and my sister were in the hotel. Then we moved to Canada, lived in Canada for the next 3 years. And then when my sister was 7 and I was 5, we came back to England, to Danbury near Chelmsford, where my dad came from. My mum grew up all over the shop. She was born in Norfolk and, you know, travelled all over, but neither of her parents came from Norfolk. So I have a very nomadic family. And so, yeah, grew up in Danbury, then went to boarding school because I went to Sandham for 2 years, hated it, and went to boarding school, which I really enjoyed. I was away from my family and I found it all, you know, my mum and dad didn't get on and I didn't like all the rowing. So I just couldn't stand living with them. I love them both, but just couldn't stand it. So I unfortunately abandoned my sister and went off to boarding school. And I'm still friends with loads of my boarding school friends now. I still hang out with them. And
what boarding school did you go to?
I went to Heatherset in Norwich. It's now a police training academy.
Quite a way away then.
Norwich, yeah, they let us go there for our annual picnic, so I still get to see everybody and all the old teachers and my biology teacher and everything, who is just the dearest. She's just done amazing work. It's just a joy. It's just been fantastic. So then I went back to Chelmsford to Chelmsford, what's it, College of Further Education, I can't remember its acronym.
What was it that you got an interest in at school then? So like after you sort of escaped family life, as you call it. It was art, was it?
Languages really, but not so much at that time. I like making things. I'm a very, very creative person. I make, as I was just showing you before, I make bags and I make makeup bags and I make jewelry. I make this.
Yeah, you make some gorgeous jewelry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just make all the time and I make bed throws and I just love making stuff. I find it puts me into that really lovely Zen place where my mind just goes off and I'm calm and happy and I think about stuff and it's magical. So yeah, I was after my A levels, I wanted to go down to Brighton to do a degree in 3D design because I'm a left-hander and everything is designed for right-handers. Everything's designed to be bloody awkward for us. And I wanted to make design better, but Dyson's pretty much done it for me. You know, a lot of the things that I found awkward are better. So yeah, he did that instead of me doing it because I then got glandular fever and ended up not doing that. I went into journalism, so I was a magazine editor for years.
It's like all this stuff that I didn't know about you. This is why I love. That's why I love this radio show in the morning because I just get to find out. I've known you a long time, Sue, and I didn't know like half of this stuff. So, just the glandular fever. Before we get into journalism, glandular fever. What happened there then? Because you said that's what changed your mind on the medical profession. So, what happened?
Yes. So what happened was my jaw completely dislocated. It was down there. I couldn't. My teeth were not aligning because of my everything here being so swollen. So my jaw was out there, and I was completely, and I couldn't swallow at all. I couldn't drink. My mum was giving me aspirins, and it would take me 10 to 15 minutes to have the courage to swallow because the pain was so horrific. My throat all the way down was completely ulcerated, and I've never been in so much pain. It was absolutely horrific. It was traumatizing. I couldn't walk, I had no energy, I hadn't eaten because I couldn't eat, couldn't swallow anything, so I couldn't eat nor drunk. And on this Saturday night, loads of my friends, it's in December, loads of my friends had gone out for a really big event and I was left at home dying on the sofa. And at the time I started choking. I didn't breathe. And I think all the, it's disgusting, all the blisters that were in my throat were just like falling down my throat and I had no energy. And I was choking and I saw my life flash before me and I was saying to myself, Sue, you're 19, come on, fight this, you can't die now. And my body was going, sorry, got no energy, sorry, can't do it, nothing left, got no energy. And I'm going, come on, fight this, you've got things you need to do. And my life is flashing before me. And my mum and my sister ran out of the room to get a knife to give me a tracheotomy. And eventually, before they came back, I managed to cough. And I'm like, and that changed my life because I thought this is the most mad thing. You can't just leave someone to die.
What were the medical profession doing at that point then?
Nothing.
So what was it? Just suck it up and see.
You've got a virus, you know. But I should have been in hospital. I should have at least been on a drip. You know, you can't leave somebody not drinking or eating for 2 weeks. I couldn't even walk. I couldn't do anything. I was just like a blob. And there was no voice coming out because, of course, my throat was completely distorted. So I couldn't talk either. So and I never thought to write notes. I didn't have the energy. You know, you're not yourself, are you, when you're that ill? So,
no. So how did you recover? How did you recover from that then? What steps did you take?
Slowly, really, really slowly. It took me ages. And I was still at art college in Southend, at Southend Tech. And I used to have a lift pass because there was no way I could walk up 3 or 4 flights of stairs to get to my classes. I think I managed about 3 days a week for the rest of the year. That was it. You know, driving down to Southend from Danbury was quite a long way. It was exhausting, and it did really affect me for quite a while, just recovering from being so bloody ill, and also the head fuck that goes with that, because it's trauma, you know, all that trauma, and not being able to kind of explain it to people because they just don't get it. It's like talking to a brick wall, and people don't want to be bored by that stuff anyway. But that was my experience at the time at 19. It was traumatic.
And that is, I mean, working in, you know, PTSD trauma removal, that's when I say to people in a session, have you had any trauma in your life? They go, oh no, because they think that trauma has to be, you've been in the army, you've had a leg blown off, you've seen people, you know,
Yes.
but trauma, the actual definition of it is a disturbing or distressing event.
Yes.
And all that happens is it gets stored with high priority, with, you know, intense negative emotion, and then the stuff reruns. And it can, with something like that, I suppose how you could explain that, if you've had something with your throat where you're not able to swallow and it's caused you that amount of trauma that you're thinking you could die,
Yeah.
then it's things like if you're choking on a bit of food, or if you're, you know, if you get a sore throat, your unconscious can run the stuff again, can't it? And
yeah, it does. Yeah.
put you back into that space.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work on it, obviously, over the years. But the positive upshot from that was when someone says you can't do something, I'm like, well, don't stop me. I'm going to find a way. So there's got to be a way, which is how I got into the neurodevelopment, because my son wasn't happy. And there's nothing like an unhappy parent who's worried about their kid to try and find answers, which is what I did. And I made my own breakthroughs in that as well, because, you know, Svea, my teacher who taught me for 5 years, she was just so brilliant with me. Being German, she loved homeopathy, so she loved me being a homeopath, and she was just so generous with her knowledge. But I made my own breakthroughs, like with, you know, with NLP, you have, you know, where your eyes move, you recall information, recall auditory information. If you are, for example, dyslexic and your tracking isn't working correctly, you can't do that because your muscles and nerves aren't able to do it. So no wonder your short-term memory or your long-term memory is not working. No wonder you can't remember things. No wonder you're struggling to imagine or any of that. And that was a link I made that at that point 16 years ago nobody else had made. Isn't that so simple? And yet so
many people with with what I call the labeled boxes.
Yeah.
So I always, well, not always, but a bit of a generalization, I tend to find that when there's not a solution in the pharmaceutical model, they just give you a label and stick you in a box and go, you're that.
Yes.
So that's why we can't do it, because you're that. And you know, it's like with dyslexia. I know in NLP we were taught certain ways to help kids read by using colour and breaking words into, you know, into different segments and that. And it was really, really interesting that when I then tried it on a child in school and did it, he could then read, after about 20 minutes of doing it, he could read quicker backwards than what I could.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because the way our eyes track isn't in one horizontal, well, we can track in a horizontal line, but when we're reading, our vision say this is a line of text here. Okay, so it's probably backwards. So our eyes will take in that section, middle section, and that section into the brain. So I can prove that to you. So if we see the word because, we don't sound it out because we recognize the whole word. We can recognize the word elephant. We can recognize the word onomatopoeia. We can recognize massive.
Isn't that, sorry to interrupt, isn't that down to as well the amount of letters in the word that we recognise, and as long as the start letter and the end letter are in the right place, all the other letters in the middle can be jumbled up and you'll still recognise the word. Yeah,
but that would apply more to a neurotypical person, but a person with dyslexia, that may or may not apply because, you know, but so we chunk in bits of the information into our brain. So yes, the reason why the coloured thing would work would be because you're making it into a section where they don't need to track. If they can recognise a word, bang, it goes straight into their visual cortex, and they can translate that into an understandable concept. So yeah, that's why that would work.
Ah, yeah, because I know quite a few people who, you know, have been diagnosed, as we can call it, with dyslexia.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like they come, that's it, it's a brick wall for them.
Yeah, about 90%, maybe, I don't know, 80% of dyslexia is visual problems. So it might be a tracking issue. It might be a hemispheric dominance issue. It might be the fact that their pupils are too big and not, they're too dilated, so that there's too much light going in and there's dazzle. They might have Erlen syndrome, which again is a light contrast issue. There can be all sorts of visual reasons, and that is mostly controlled by muscles and nerves. So you can sort that out in a fairly short time and massively improve dyslexia right there. So, and that's
it's interesting. I take it you know about the Feldenkrais method.
Yes, it's not something I'm massively familiar with, but yes.
Yeah, so that I remember having, when I went to do my NLP trainers thing down in Brighton, there was a lady there whose husband had developed that technique.
Yeah.
And she was doing sessions in the morning.
Yeah.
And I remember going up and thinking, someone said to me, I'll go do one of her sessions because she's lovely. So I got up really early and went and did one of her sessions. And it was all weird little things, like you'd have to hold one arm in a certain way and then not move your head and move your eyes in a certain direction, and odd little things. But the weird thing was, when I went to walk out of there, I could walk down the stairs.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is really odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did a couple of mornings, but it really improved how I went downstairs. Obviously, it wore off because I'd only done 2 sessions.
Yeah.
And I didn't keep it up when I left.
Yeah, and that's where brain rewiring comes in, doesn't it? It's the constant thing. And as we know with all the Joe Dispenza stuff, and it's about what wires together, fires together, what fires together, wires together. And that's what we're doing with neurodevelopment, is you're building up the right structure, because a lot of the learning issues are down there in the brain stem. Some of it isn't, but a lot of it is. Some of it's corpus callosum, which link the 2 hemispheres together. So if you get the mechanics right, the electrics right, then all the rest can flourish. So that's what we're doing, is building mechanically, getting the nerve pathways in there. And
I find it fascinating. So song number 1 this morning, I love the fact that you've chosen loads of songs. I've got no idea what they are. Killing Joke, Pandemonium.
Oh, I love Killing Joke. So Killing Joke goes right back to my teens, when me and my sister used to hang out with a load of her friends, and I was at boarding school, so I just used to hang out with them, and there was all a load of people who were all older than me. And one of them in particular liked Killing Joke, but it was something that I loved. And you know Kelly Jones, her and I both have this big thing about angry music, and Killing Joke is industrial punk rock. And I love it because instead of it just sounds angry, but I find it so stimulating. It's like, yeah, Killing Joke. I went to see them 6 years ago, and that's pretty much where I met my partner. So Killing Joke is wonderfully romantic for us, but also he's does DJing at festivals in the summer, and he's DJing all the time. That's not his profession, it's his other profession. And he got to introduce Killing Joke, I think, to at Bloodstock last year, and I got this set list, and we went to see them again about a month ago, and it's just so good. I love it. It just fires me up with just giggles and fun, and it's special for us because it was our gig, really.
Yeah. Oh, so Django, if you wouldn't mind, then a bit of Killing Joke for us this morning, please. And that should be off air. I don't know if anyone can still hear us, if Django has managed to put the music.
Sorry, I missed the cue. Here we go. Music is playing.
Yeah. I'm good at filling dead air.
It could be any.
And now you're off air.
Wonderful.
Not just this one.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. I just missed the cue. I just suddenly heard silence and I thought something happened.
Something happened. That'd be me running all over the place as usual, Django. Keeps him on his toes on a Sunday morning, you see. He can't go to sleep when he's got me.
It's so funny. I was listening until I must have just missed something.
I think last time you went to the kitchen or something, didn't you?
This time I went back to Zoom. I'm like, no, someone's face moved. So if they are still on Zoom.
They're still talking. It's all good. Oh dear. Yes, we'll go into. I found it. I'll tell you what, Sue. The one thing with the pharmaceutical side of things at the moment, it's how it creates these massive limiting beliefs around people.
Yes, isn't it just?
So they won't. It's like they won't. No, a doctor in a coat has told me this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you tell me. It won't work because the doctor has told me X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most frustrating things that I sort of come across.
Yeah, it's conditioning, isn't it? I mean, they've spent a lot of time conditioning us to think that. So, but I was thinking about this yesterday because, you know, I'm a homeopath and I haven't really talked about that. Most people don't even know I'm a homeopath. But then the reason is because we go through such a nightmare. People are so judgmental and attacky about it. And I was thinking about an analogy yesterday, and it's like with homeopathy, if you do a drug trial for homeopathy, that's like trying to measure music with teaspoons. And you can go, oh, there's nothing in this teaspoon. Well, no, that's because you're measuring it with the wrong thing.
Oh, so, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were the first people, homeopaths, to do drug trials. All our stuff is 100% tested. We know what it does. But if you try and measure it with a different paradigm that's incompatible, you get nonsense because there's no homeopaths involved in those drug trials. And they just go, oh, it's no better than placebo. Well, of course not. You're measuring music with teaspoons.
Yes, one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always found the homeopathic remedies beneficial, actually. I mean, I suppose would you call like the doTERRA oils and stuff homeopathic?
Oh, fuck no.
No.
No. That's herbalism.
So that's more herbalism, is it?
Yeah, and if you see, you can use pharmaceutical drugs homeopathically if you know what you're doing. The dose won't be homeopathic. Like Ritalin, for example, if you listen to what the medical profession say about Ritalin, it will only work on ADHD. If you haven't got ADHD, it will produce the symptoms of ADHD, and that's homeopathic language.
30 seconds.
It is quite mad, isn't it? I mean, the herbalism stuff. I mean, I use one of the doTERRA oils when I've got hay fever.
Yeah.
I use hay fever tablets. I just make sure I've got it with me, smell it and that, and it dissipates it off. I get a good 2 hours, 3 hours relief.
So that might be because it's stopping the cascade reaction. So if it's stopping mast cell degranulation, then it could be why.
Kindasound Radio, the station for a global community.
And you're live.
And welcome back to Kindasound this morning on Reality Bites with my gorgeous guest, Sue Cook, talking all things brain buzz. And we're going to go into homeopathy as well, actually, and chickens, as we've been talking already. But we were just having an off-air discussion about a couple of different things. And one of them is how the medical profession as it stands. I mean, I always say this too, if it wasn't for doctors, Sue, I wouldn't be here today. Yeah. So when I had my accident, I needed doctors. You know, there was no amount of packing herbs or homeopathy into me at that point in time that was going to save me. I needed a doctor. And I think that we should be in that space now where we start bringing the old back into where we are. Yeah. So they start melding together because there's always another solution. But what I found with many people that I speak to, they don't look at the alternatives, whereas we call it an alternative, but it was the original way of creating, for any illness, disease or anything, everybody prior to the pharmaceutical model that was brought in, 100, 150 years ago or whatever, prior to that, it was herbs. It was herbs and homeopathy, basically, wasn't it? That was the mainstay. And I think what's happened is if you haven't got a white coat on and you're not given a prescription for something, then people tend to just dish it off straight away. So actually, they're missing out on maybe creating massive change within their health because they're stuck in that limitation of the belief system of if a doctor hasn't prescribed it, it won't work.
Yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you completely in that do what works. So there have been times when, my life's been saved by, like when I had my first son, I hemorrhaged and I would have died without an injection in my leg. You know, when I had my second son, how the body learns, my placenta refused to come out. So I needed surgery and a spinal block for that, and things like that. So absolutely 100% do what works. So, however, if things with the pharmaceutical industry are not working for you, that's when we need to look the other way at what the opportunities are. And there's something really interesting happened a couple of 100 years ago. There were big epidemics all over America and France and England and Europe and everywhere. I think, diphtheria and all of that stuff was occurring. And the three main paradigms of treatment at the time were herbalism, homeopathy, which was in its infancy, it was only a few decades old, and what's now grown into what we call mainstream medicine. So purgatives, emetics, mercury, using all the leeches and that paradigm, which was very different then from now. So what happened was these three paradigms were used to treat people across all of these places. And the death rate, my memory for figures isn't great, but the gist of it is this: the death rate from those using the pharmaceutical was something like 30%. The death rate, and this was everywhere, the death rate from those using herbs was about 2 or 3%. The death rate from those using homeopathy, those who exclusively used homeopathy, there was no death rate. And those who had used other things plus homeopathy, it was about 0.8, 0.9%, something like that. So in France, what happened was France awarded homeopathy with some great accolades. And that's where you can get it when you go to your doctor. You can have any kind of medicine you want there, homeopathy or mainstream. In England, we know the status, but in America, homeopathy was banned. The American Medical Association got set up, and so there was a different thing happened there. So those were the stats from then. I'm not going to go into what happened after that, but yes, it's very interesting that with herbalism, there's a big history of it. It's been used for thousands of years, and there's a lot of folklore around it, a lot of trials, and we know what it does pretty much, don't we? Homeopathy, everything we do, we test until no new symptoms appear. So we know what our prescriptions do, we know what works, and we test it our way. But if you're trying to measure homeopathy with by doing a gold standard drug trial, it's like testing measuring music with teaspoons. It's the wrong paradigm. You're going to go, well, there's nothing in my teaspoon. That's because it's the wrong measuring stick for it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do gold standard drug trials for homeopathic medicines or for homeopathy, you must have homeopaths in the trial and must be using it appropriately. When I was at university, one of our lecturers at the university was conducting a drug trial into arnica. He wasn't a homeopath. And he was getting cyclists to take arnica after cycling and measure their response. That's not homeopathy. What are you measuring there? That's not homeopathy, and it's not anything else. And this is the insanity of it. When people who don't understand a system are using a wrong system to measure it and then saying it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't.
Trying to measure music with teaspoons. Yeah, interesting analogy there. So can you just explain how homeopathy works then? Because I know you have have I got this right? I probably haven't, but hey ho, I'm going to chuck out what I think it is. Yeah. So you basically give someone a dose of whatever it is that's going on, and then the body sorts itself out.
So we take a case. We take the person's case. So we write down all their symptoms.
Yeah.
And we ask them about their family history, and we ask them about what illnesses they've had. So we get their case. So from that, we're working out what their constitutional type is, and we're also finding out what their symptoms are. And so what we then need to do is look in our books and find a remedy that produces the same symptoms that they've got. So I had a case last week of a young lady who is in the medical profession. She's had an issue for 25 years. No one's been able to understand or sort out. So she came to me, and I took all her symptoms and I tracked it back to an emotional shock, trauma she had when she was a small child, which has weirdly ended up in the bizarre symptoms that she has, which are nothing to do with the shock she had. Yeah. And I found a remedy called aconite, which is Aconitum napellus, which is one of the most poisonous plants in the garden, monkshood. And I prescribed that to her because it matched her symptoms. So it's like cures like. So if you take aconite, then you will get all sorts of awful symptoms because you think you're going to be dying, and you probably will be if you take a poisoning herbal dose.
Yep.
and you're going to be anxious and you're going to be feverish and you're going to be shocked and traumatized and all this. And all of that was in her symptom picture, even though it was a long time, decades after the original trauma. And we spoke yesterday on the phone, because this is a really fresh case, and she took the remedy. All the symptoms of the trauma came back, you know, on a gentle level. I'm going, well, great, that's curative. That's just going to go. It's going to just be gone from your body.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. So yeah, we treat like with like. We're not treating same with same. That's isopathy. So for example, if you've got arsenic poisoning, we might occasionally give arsenic, but I mean, we wouldn't really see this as a symptom picture, but we would give something, you know, whatever. That's same with same.
Right.
Iso means same, homo means like. So homeopathy, isopathy, and we also use sarcodes, so we can use whole organs as well. But the way we potentize things, we can give poisons safely because it's all about dose, because we take out the poisonous element by dilution and shaking. So we've got the quantum physics of it, we've got the vibration in the substance, but none of the material matter that's going to create a toxic poisoning reaction. So that's how we can give poisons without hurting people, because they're no longer poisons, it's just their curative vibration. So if people are into vibrational medicine, that's how we do things. It sounds bizarre, but it really works. I've taken loads of arsenicum. It's an anxiety remedy. It's really good for people before their driving tests. If you get poisoned with arsenic, you're going to be sweaty head, you're going to be freezing, you're going to want to sit by the window open for air, but you're cold. You might have vomiting and diarrhea. It's the #1 food poisoning remedy. Anxiety or anxiety before an event, and that's arsenicum. Brilliant remedy. I've used it loads, taken it loads. It's good before exams. But we can take poison safely with the way we prepare our remedies.
So it just sort of creates like a signature pattern.
Yeah, it's a vibration. It's the vibrational code to that substance, and it meets our body. You know, like with tuning forks, if you ping a tuning fork, another tuning fork will vibrate. That's all we're doing, is we're pinging tuning forks, vibrational tuning forks, and our body then knows what to do to heal, to get rid of whatever is going on.
It's interesting, isn't it? If you give the body the right environment, then it can heal everything.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's brilliant. I mean, I just never get over the wonderfulness of giving somebody something and they get better. Another one of my patients is a nurse, and she's in her 60s. She's been a nurse for a long time. She's had this recurring problem. No one's been able to get rid of it, you know, in the medical profession. She came to me. I took her case, and it went in 10 minutes, gone, didn't come back. So, and that's homeopathy.
Yeah, fascinating. It takes us into sleep token sugar.
Oh my God, sleep token. Oh, this music is so beautiful. You don't know sleep token, do you? We went to see them at Colchester Arts Centre just before the lockdown, and we were just like mesmerized. We just were so moved. It's one of those bands that, you know, you have tears in your eyes at the gorgeousness of it. And about a year and a half ago, we went to London to see them again. And we were, because I'm not short, but I always have a giant stand in front of me. And Lloyd is a giant, but we went to stand behind the wheelchairs so that I could bloody see this gig. And these 6 young ladies in their 20s came over to us, and they were the dearest. And they said, will you look after us? We've recently been spiked and we're really nervous. We don't want to go down there. And I just put my arm around this guy, you stay with us. Lloyd, we've got a job. And these 2 of the girls were Sydney and Chantel, and we follow each other on Instagram now. We've stayed in touch. And Chantel was just hugged into me and tears rolling down her face the whole night. And I just remember Sugar, because she just sang along with it. It was gorgeous. And we just love this band. It could be any song you pick. It's all beautiful, beautiful. It's just inspiring. I love it.
I look forward to listening to this one at some point. I don't get to hear them because obviously we don't hear the music when it's playing. So if you wouldn't mind, please, Sleep Token and Sugar.
Cool, you're off air.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the spiking is a really interesting subject. So with one of my business partners, he works in hostility situational awareness, and we teach people about travel safe and all different stuff.
Yeah.
And the one thing is quite prevalent at the moment, especially in London, is people jabbing you in the backside with an injection.
Yeah.
So instead of like spiking, because everyone's well aware that you get spiked in your drinks. Yeah. Someone will walk past you and you just get a little like think, ow, what was that?
Yeah.
thing. And then the next thing, a friend of mine got spiked somewhere. I won't actually go out to events like where you're tightly packed. And she was in a place where in Chelmsford where you would think it would be really safe in this particular place, and she got spiked. But luckily enough, and it was one of them, like a jabbed one. And luckily enough, the people she was with, obviously she's sort of my age, so she's with sensible people.
Yeah.
They were, all of a sudden she's gone all weird and like literally flopped down on the floor, and they were like, oh shit, we've got a problem. So they took her home, and she went to the police now. But it's getting really rife again,
Isn't it? Yeah. I got spiked with speed when I was 18, and I didn't find out for 3 months why the hell I'd spent the entire night running around a field.
Yeah, that's not so bad. It's dodgy. Well, saying that's not so bad.
Wow.
It's not good, but it's all the dodgy rohypnols and stuff like that, and it's like these drugs.
It's really scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just anyone watching this, just make sure, when you go out, you have a group of friends and that you have a procedure that one of you is sober.
Yeah.
So that one's sober, rotate it around the group. Do you know what I mean? Every time you go out, make sure you keep one of you sober so they can keep an eye on everyone.
Yeah.
Because
when you get jabbed in the arse like that, how long does it take to kick in?
not long at all.
What seconds? 5 seconds?
It's probably within a minute you're going to be like all over the place.
Bloody hell. It's terrifying, isn't it?
It is really, yeah.
Horrible.
Happens everywhere, Sue, though. The things
Yeah.
we do, isn't it? It's,
It's outrageous.
It is, yes. So what are you doing mainly at the moment then? Are you doing a bit of everything still?
Yeah, I'm not seeing very many neuro patients because I'm not a school run mum anymore. I'm not seeing very many, and also I've got all the courses. I'm mainly doing homeopathy and making stuff, and I learned EMDR recently. Do you know EMDR?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I learned that, and I've used that a little bit. But yeah, it's all about helping people and trauma, and all the shit that goes on, and just helping people restore their health, because it's the worst thing when you're not well or you've got an issue. I hate that. I want to help people and make a difference. It means so much to me.
Yeah. Is there with COPD? Is there anything you can do?
Yeah, I've treated a horse with COPD. We're not supposed to treat animals because I'm not a vet, but I've successfully helped a horse with COPD. 25 years ago. It's a friend of mine's mum's horse.
Yeah, random. I know a couple of people who have it, that it causes like massive issues for them.
Yeah, we might be able to. I mean, obviously there's damage to the lungs, so but you can probably limit it and help. I don't really know. The body regenerates to a degree. I don't know how much the lungs do in there, but I mean, I believe anything's possible. Let's go for it. Try it.
Yeah, I've just got one of these iTerracare wands. I don't know if you've seen them. They're new frequency, terahertz frequency.
I've heard of
20 seconds.
Thanks, Django. Yeah, and it works on sort of like frequency vibration, but also thought processes.
Yeah.
And you go through certain meridian points, and then if you've got trouble areas, you spend a little bit of extra time over those. So I'll let you know how I get on with that. I've had it for 7 days on trial.
Fantastic.
I'm going to keep it, and I'll let you know how I get on with that in a few weeks. See if I had a lump on my wrist, and I've been using it because I wanted to use it on things that are like visible. So the lump's nearly gone, and I had a broken tongue, and that's nearly gone now. So.
Well done.
And you live.
I was going to just answer for Django then and go, I think we're live again now. We're back on Kindasound this morning on Reality Bites. So Sue, I'd just like to just bounce back a little bit to the neuro stuff you do with Brain Buzz. What type of sort of issues have you helped people with and overcome? So we've talked about dyslexia. What other ones, like common themes, are there that it really helps with?
Dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Asperger's, autism, ADHD, mutism. I've helped people who've had paralysis, as we know. I've helped people with strokes. I've helped people maintain their brain status as adults so that there wasn't decline. I recovered, I use that word carefully. I had a patient who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she was in her late 50s, and she could no longer use door handles or taps anymore, and we got her completely restored to driving in 3 or 4 months with neurodevelopment, nutrition, and homeopathy. So I chucked everything at it. So we cleared out her brain of heavy metals, which can often be a problem with dementias. We gave her amazing nutrition so that her brain was getting fed with everything it needed. And then we rebuilt everything that needed to be rebuilt with neurodevelopment.
What are some of the great foods that go with brain development then? Have you got any off the top of your head?
Well, so you want high density. I wrote a book about this called Eat for Your Brain. I don't have a copy handy. I've got a copy of another book I wrote on food, Nutrition for Special Needs, but that doesn't focus on the superfoods as such. But you want high density nutrients. So things like cracked chlorella, spirulina, even sour cherries, things like that with high density nutrients that are going to feed the body. So even strawberries, blueberries, things like that are very good. And all the mushrooms, so reishi, chaga, lion's mane, they're brilliant for the brain.
I was watching, actually, you say that about mushrooms. Who was I watching yesterday? I think it might have been an interview with Jordan Peterson and someone else.
Oh, yeah.
And they were saying we hold 50% of our DNA is the same as mushrooms.
Yeah.
And they were talking about mushrooms and saying how beneficial they are.
Yeah.
Body, and you should actually be eating quite a large quantity of mushrooms every week, but diverse,
yes.
you know, diversity within the mushrooms, not just getting white button mushrooms.
Oh yeah, no, you need to have your healthy mushrooms like the ones I said. So reishi is Ganoderma lucidum. Ganoderma lucidum means clear skin, and it was known as the emperor herb. That's an incredibly nutritious mushroom. I take it every day. And then there's chaga, lion's mane, the other ones I take them in capsule form. I currently get mine from young Cheryl at Hair and Skin Solutions, but you don't have to get them from there. You can get them from anywhere. But I just love them because they are, again, high density nutrients, and they've got all of your bits and pieces in that you need to keep your body healthy, and they're bioavailable, you know, so they will be absorbed very easily, whereas a lot of people have got the gut problems. So if you've got gut problems, you need to heal that gut, reduce inflammation, and so that things can actually be absorbed. So my dad had ADHD. People with ADHD often have a lot of problems with their gut, same as some autistic people can as well. So they're not necessarily absorbing things very well. And so they're always hungry. You know, my dad was always hungry, always eating stacks, because you have to eat a lot to try and get in the nutrients, because nothing's being absorbed. So it's about healing the gut and then having the right nutrients to be able to feed your body what it needs and maintain a good homeostasis. And that's what this book was about, Nutrition for Special Needs. That's how that came to be about, because I was always saying the same thing to my patients. You know, back in the day, in the 70s, when my dad used to have terrible migraines that would knock him out for 3 or 4 days, my mum was listening to the radio and heard the Hyperactive Children's Support Group was just starting by Sally Bundy for her son. My mum sent off the diet sheet, put us all on the elimination diet to find out what was wrong with Dad. And we found out what was wrong with Dad, and his headaches went. Unless he accidentally poisoned himself with nitrates, monosodium glutamate, or colorings, then he was fine. So yeah.
That's interesting, that, isn't it? Because I have such what I call a clean diet now.
Yeah.
So like 98% of my food is what I call clean. Every now and then I might have a little bit of cake or something. But as soon as I eat anything with like refined sugar in it, headaches.
Yeah.
Or it comes out in the skin.
Yeah.
So if I eat anything pastry wise, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
It comes out in the skin.
Yeah.
Or it disrupts my sleep or something like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's just that knowing that actually the cleaner my diet's got, the better the body is at healing itself now.
Yeah, and your body will be telling you, like it does, when it doesn't like what you've put in it. So
straight away, yeah.
There you are. It's great, isn't it?
It is really, yeah. It takes years of practice, and so many people say to me, "Oh, I don't have time to cook," and it's like, my dinners take me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not into slaving in a kitchen for like 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? I just think there's too many people that make too many excuses.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really blessed though, because Lloyd loves cooking and I'm not massively into it. So he does all the cooking and he absolutely cooks the most amazing food. I'm so blessed.
Yeah, that's always a bonus, isn't it? See, I like cooking. I grew up cooking.
I like making cakes and puddings, but I don't, you can't live on them. But no. Lloyd will cook every day. But I cooked yesterday, so that's rare.
Down to Lloyd. It's all right. It's nice to have someone looking after you, isn't it?
Pampered, yeah.
So song number 3 this morning. I'm trying to bounce through these songs because we don't have long.
Yeah.
So Zeal and Ardor, Devil is Fine. Again.
So this is a really interesting thing because Manuel, the singer, used to post on Twitter on a Sunday evening, give me 2 genres of music and I'll make a song. And somebody said to him, black metal and gospel music. So he made a song which was black metal and gospel music, and then Zia Leonardo was born because it works. It's so good. It's, again, it sounds like quite angry and it's like fun and inspiring. I just love it. But The Devil Is Fine. It's just a song that you can sing along to if you want in your car. The devil is fine. It's just great. A bit of karaoke when you're going along. And I just love it. It's getting inspiring. We've seen Zia Leonardo about 5 times. We just love them. They are great. And yeah, can't say enough good things about it. Again, any of their songs would have been brilliant, but I chose The Devil Is Fine. It was just brilliant.
So another wakey one for you guys this morning then. So Django, if you wouldn't mind a bit of Zia Leonardo, please.
Cool, you're off air.
So you can hear the kind of gospel music came from slavery, and you can hear the jangling chains in this, except you can't at the moment. But it's really interesting. Manuel, the singer, is mixed race and he's French. And it's just gorgeous. It's just powerful and inspiring.
Yeah, I'll have a listen to these. I like a bit of new music. So normally when I jump off of here, I'll stick these on so I can have a little listen. And
yeah, I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it. It's just good. I like music that gets me out of my seat and makes me just.
Yeah, that's what I use music for. I like it as a nice vibrational change.
Yeah.
So it's one of them things. I'll make sure every day involves music somewhere.
Yeah.
Exercise.
Well, we don't have a telly, and when Lloyd's cooking, he will DJ. So every day we talk to each other and we have music.
How nice is that?
It's just so nice because he always, because he's a DJ and because we're passionate about music, he's always ordering new music, and we'll just put something new on, and it's like, I love this, or whatever. So it's just fun.
Are you still down in Felixstowe?
Yeah, crazy. We live 100 yards from the beach.
Oh, no.
In his house. It's this big 3-story Victorian, a bit like my old one, but his is about, much wider. And we've got this crazy garden that goes up the cliff. We live at the bottom of the cliff. And
all right, yeah, cool.
We've got 20 feet of flat, and then it's just almost vertical. So our garden is terraced. And it's we live in a crazy place.
Where are the chickens on the flat bit?
They're there. They're behind you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the chicken window. So the chicken window's there.
All right, yeah.
Let's see if we can see the chickens. Oh, look, there's one. I don't know if you can see her.
Oh, yeah.
Two. So that is Hanine, and I don't know which. So those are the Arabella Brahmas. They're bonkers. And then they're big, and then Lily's this big.
I'm looking forward to the time when I have a bit more land so I can have chickens again.
Yeah, well, they don't take up much space. We've got the igloo, but because we've got like this mad wild garden. We live right in the middle of town.
Right.
We're 100
30
yards
seconds.
middle. We're over the road from the Morrisons. We're right near the pier, and yet we've got this jungle in the back garden.
Lovely.
You should come visit.
I will. I know I've kept saying.
I was feeding chickens this morning.
Oh,
It was a really sweet bunch. I was quite surprised. They were just really sweet.
Chickens are sweet. They've got lovely little personalities.
Kindasound Radio, the station for a global community.
And you're live.
And welcome back to the final part of Reality Bites on Kindasound this morning. So Sue, I'd like to just go through what you're doing now, what your plans for the future are, and how people can get hold of you and come and experience some of your wonderfulness.
Oh, thank you. So I've made a link tree, which is on my Instagram. So I've got several Instagrams depending on what mood I'm in. I've got my Brain Buzz one, Sue Cook Brain Buzz. And if you go to the link there's a link tree with my courses, all my things I make. There's another makeup bag that opens flat. You can get my books, my courses. I make deodorant, toothpaste, the whole lot, creams and stuff. But my creams aren't really for sale to the general public. The courses are. So there. And what am I doing? And it's Brain Buzz. Here's one of my leaflets. Look. Brain Buzz, one of my
Brain Buzz with 3 Z's.
Yeah.
Make sure these links are on the YouTube version of this later, and I'm sure Django will put them up as well.
Some of my books. And if you've got any issues, just get in touch. My number is 07730 188 536. Send me a text. Or contact me on Instagram, Sue Cook Brain Buzz, or if you want to learn more about the comedy and the nonsense I talk about, that's the Portly Spaniel Secret Diary, which is where all the silly chicken stuff is. So me and Lloyd were driving around London because he's an antique dealer. We were delivering something, and one of our friends wanted to change her name, and she came up with this ridiculously sensible name. And we were thinking, well, if you're going to change your name, it's got to be ridiculous. So we were just playing with words, and we came up with Portly Spaniel as one of the most ridiculous comedy
I did wonder that on Instagram. I was thinking, where has this woman got this from now?
Well, it's Lloyd, really, because he's much funnier than I am. So we came up with the Portly Spaniels. So we booked into hotels as the Portly Spaniels, and it's just funny because it's just a ridiculous fat dog, but it's just funny. And so we've got that Instagram, which is just full of nonsense. And then I've got the one where I make things, and I can't even remember what it's called. I think it's called Finishing Touches by Susie. Let me find it.
I'll have a
Finishing Touches by Susie on Instagram, and then there's the Portly Spaniel Secret Diary, and then Sue Cook Brain Buzz. Or email me on suecook@brainbuzz.co.uk. And what am I doing these days? Well, I have my courses, I have my books, so people can see me or not, or if they want homeopathy, then I can see you on Zoom, or I'm at Cheryl's wonderful clinic on Tuesdays, and in Alsford at Hair and Skin Solutions, so you can book in to see me there, and online Zoom if you want me for anything else. EMDR, I'm movement desensitization and reprocessing. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the reason why, because neurodevelopment is more expensive than homeopathy. That's because if you see me in person, I need a big room. You can't just do that with a little desk and a chair. You need space, and that costs more for room rental. So
yeah, and we've not been able to go into this morning, but I've had personal experience of the neurodevelopment from Sue, and you do need room to roll about on the floor, is all I'm going to say.
do, and it's really good fun. And the parents of the kids I work with neuro issues say that I'm half mad scientist and half children's entertainer. When
I would agree.
Yeah, because you're dealing with children or young people or even grown-ups who are quite anxious about the thing. Everyone wants to hide their problem. Nobody wants anyone to know what their problem is.
Yeah.
And I would just have to just get straight in there. But you can't just, face up with somebody. You've got to get them going along with you in the same direction so that they will open up to you. And I got very good at that. So I got very good at being a bit of a comedian in the clinic, or mad scientist, and just getting people on side. So that's how I worked with some very difficult, I don't mean difficult in a bad way, but I mean people who did not want to be there, did not want to open up. And in 5 minutes, I've got them having a load of fun with me and really, really enjoying the craziness of the clinic. So, the banana, we might use a banana to test ear dominance or something silly like that. Or, the pretend extremely heavy telescope to look through and think, just having fun and just making people feel good about themselves. And everybody would leave my clinic feeling empowered, happy, really like they'd enjoyed themselves, and with hope for the future that things were going to be better.
And I think that's the main thing in it, so is just being able to have that, give people a bit of hope.
Yeah.
That there is something else they can do if they've hit a brick wall and they've not found it through, the current medical route they've gone through. Give Sue a shout, because you never know, people. It might just help you out. Yeah,
we have a saying: teeth, tried everything else, try homeopathy. But it's really about giving it a go to see if it is for you and if it can make a difference. So, and I wouldn't be doing neurodevelopment if it hadn't have changed my son's life, changed 1,000 families that I've worked with personally, 30 people who I've trained, and countless other people who've bought my courses. It's because it's effective, and I love it. It's a beautiful, gentle process. It is. Well, all I can say, Sue, is thank you very much for joining me this morning and having a good old chat, love. It's been great. Oh, I've loved it. We should do this more often. When are you coming to Felixstowe? Come out to play. I'm gonna. Yeah, I'll make a date. When we get off of here, I'll send you a text. Stick something in the diary and I'll come down and see you. That would be awesome.
All right, love to you, woman. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the listeners who've tuned in, and thank you again to Django for producing. And we're just going to play out. I'm not going to ask you about this one because we've only got like 1 or so minutes left, but we're going to play out with, I don't even know how to say this.
Actually, you've got
YouTube VIP. So Django, if you wouldn't mind, finish us off with some VIP this morning, please.
Cool, you're off air.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely.